We begin with the split verdict for Elizabeth Holmes.
Within the past hour, the one-time Silicon Valley star guilty on some counts, but cleared on others. KPIX 5's Len Ramirez covered the trial from the start. He is live at the federal courthouse in San Jose with us with more on the verdict for us. Len?
Well, Alan, just a lot of drama this afternoon here in the San Jose federal courthouse with these verdicts that were being read. The first charge that was given out by the courtroom clerk was a guilty, and then that was followed by a not guilty, and then they went on down the list. Total of 11 charges. We're talking about 4 guilty, including wire fraud and conspiracy, 4 not guilty, and then the jury was hung up on 3 of the charges, meaning the prosecution has the opportunity to retry her on those 3 charges that the jury was deadlocked on if they so choose. Elizabeth Holmes showed absolutely no emotion in the court as these verdicts were being read. She is facing now the penalty, or the possible penalty, of up to 20 years in prison on just one of the guilty charges. So she faces a significant amount of jail time, as well as a lot of fines and restitution, things like that. Now, let's break this down a little bit more with the charges. Now, there is a conspiracy charge. She was found guilty. 3 fraud charges. She was found guilty. 4 charges not guilty. And as I mentioned before, 3 charges were deadlocked. Let's get a little analysis now from Michelle Hagan, who has been with us throughout the trial. She's a legal analyst, former prosecutor. Give us your take on what the jury decided today. A real mixed bag of verdicts today.
Yes, it's mixed, but I think it's a fair outcome given the testimony that I've heard. And, you know, the jury, it could be a compromised verdict or a mixed verdict where they came back on some on guilty, some not guilty. And it's usually when they are undecided. We don't know how undecided they were, meaning were there more votes to guilt or not guilty. And also usually when it's not guilty, it's they didn't have enough evidence to show that she was guilty. And they found reasonable doubt on those charges.
What do you think the significance of these guilty verdicts will be in Silicon Valley and the practices of startup companies?
Well, I think it's a wake-up call for Silicon Valley to be very careful about what you say and what do you put in writing and what you put on your websites, and you don't make misrepresentations, because wire fraud is no joke. When you're looking at a maximum up to 20 years on just 1 count of wire fraud, and Ms. Holmes has been convicted now of 4 counts.
So the term "fake it until you make it" has been widely used when describing this case and Elizabeth Holmes' practices, and it has been something that Silicon Valley companies have gotten away with for a long time. What do you think will happen to that phrase now?
Well, I think it's not fake it till you make it anymore. It's don't fraud, you know, don't fraud it to make it either. So you cannot make misrepresentations. You just can't. You have to be very careful, and I'm sure there's plenty of lawyers out there going through everything, you know, in any representations, any PowerPoint representations to investors, to any kind of clients they're dealing with, to making sure that they're not making any misrepresentations. And in this case in particular, Elizabeth Holmes did hire an outside attorney to look at her website. They did make recommendations to change things, and she didn't make those changes.
The trial has now ended for Elizabeth Holmes, but there's a possibility of an appeal. There's a possibility of a retrial on the 3 counts. And then we have Sunny Balwani, her former boyfriend and business partner. Now, there's a little bit of a disturbance, somebody shouting back in the background. But what happens now with Balwani's case? How will this affect him?
Well, Balwani's case is, you know, he's accused of the very same charges. Very same charges. It's going to be the same evidence, more than likely the same testimony, the same judge, and the same prosecutors.
Where do you think this goes in terms of her sentencing? Will she spend time behind bars?
Well, it's not over until the appeal's over, and absolutely they're going to file an appeal on these charges. So we may be looking at a year or 2 before anything's carried out as far as her sentence.
Now, something has just happened here in the courthouse entry area. It looks like they're closing the courthouse for the day, so we're going to have to kind of step outside in just a few minutes because the gates are going to be locked in on us here. But we still have not seen the attorneys in this case. We have not seen Elizabeth Holmes come down. The media is here from around the country, and I'm one of the last reporters standing in this courtyard. So we're going to have to send it back to you for now. We're set up to get reaction from the various parties throughout the afternoon and evening here in San Jose. Alan, back to you.